Welcome to the Infinite Wealth Podcast. I'm Cameron Christensen, along with our co-host Anthony Faso. And guys, we're excited today because we're going to be talking to you guys about the infinite banking blueprint and what a 10-year strategy looks like. If you're an investor or want to be an investor and you're looking to create passive income that exceeds your monthly expenses, then this is the podcast for you. Here on the Infinite Wealth Podcast, we combine the philosophies of Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, along with Nelson Nash's infinite banking concept. Guys, when people bring up the infinite banking concept, typically what they're focused on is just the first few years, because that's when cash feels tight, that's when growth is slow, and that's when doubt creeps in. That's when all your friends start to say, hey, I don't know if this thing's going to work out for you. And then you start to think, is this really working? But infinite banking is not about what happens in the first year. It's about what happens in years 10 and beyond. And today, that's what we're going to be talking about.
Right. Because, you really sit back and look back. Wealth isn't created in spurts. It's typically created through systems and processes. And that's what infinite banking is. This is like building your own personal financial engine. And the cool thing is that it compounds in two directions, meaning it's compounding inside the policy, but also when we leverage against it to buy asset, it starts growing outside the policy as well. And that's why I like to say when infinite banking is done right, you should be able to build more assets outside the policy than you have inside the policy.
Well said. So guys, today what we're going to be doing is we're going to peel back the curtains on a long-term vision of infinite banking. And we're going to talk to you guys about what happens when you don't quit and what it does look like when you don't just fund a policy, but we use it along the way. Anthony, how about you start us off, man? Tell them what IBC really is.
Well, let's talk about what it is and what it's not, right? IBC is not a get-rich scheme, right? This is more of a cash management tool. I know if you do your research, you're going to hear really two sides. Either infinite banking is the worst thing ever, or it's the best thing ever since sliced bread, and that IBC will cure all your financial woes. Neither one of those are accurate. It's really somewhere in between is the truth. I like to think of like IBC or my policy or policies. This is more like my financial hub. This is a place where I store my capital or my cash. And when opportunities come, I deploy the cash. And if it's a true asset, it's either going to provide cash flow or gain upon the sale. I got to store that somewhere. So I store it back in my hub so I can recycle it for the next opportunity.
Guys, we're going to approach this in two sections. The first few years is really this idea of planting the seeds, and years 5 through 10 is about harvesting those seeds. And you guys hear us talk about this often. We refer to it as a slow start, and I think that is one of the main hurdles that people have that they need to get over when they learn about infinite banking. But during our education process, what we educate clients on is what happens when you get past that slow start. And even in that 4th and 5th year, now what clients start to see is that you're sitting on a really good pile of capital or cash, and now you start to identify opportunities in which you can put that money to work. And so that's what we're going to dive in today.
Now, when IBC is used correctly, it becomes more like a flywheel of cash flow and opportunities. Now, Cameron, I'm going to ask you this question and be honest. Are you familiar with the term flywheel?
I think of a hamster wheel is what I think of.
Okay. Well, I would say interesting story. Many years ago, I was talking with another IBC guy, and he was looking at branding his company, and he called it flywheel something. I don't know what, but I remember the flywheel, and he wanted my input, and I'm like, dude, I don't know what a flywheel is. But here's the funny thing, like a flywheel is really like a big heavy wheel, right? But at the beginning, it's really hard to push. It takes a lot of effort, right? And you use a lot of energy to just move it a little bit. But if you keep pushing it continue to push it over and over, it starts to spin faster. And once it starts spinning fast, it takes much less effort to keep it going. And eventually it keeps spinning it on its own. And like with infinite banking, like the flywheel is your money system, right? At first, it takes time and it takes effort to set up. You have to put money in and be patient. But after a while, it starts working for you where you can borrow, repay, and grow your money faster and easier, just like the wheel spinning with less effort.
Well said. All right, guys, let's dive into this, kind of talk about how this 10-year timeline is going to unfold. What we've did is we've broken it down into a few different sections, years 1 through 3. And guys, in the first years 1 through 3, really what you're doing is you're building the foundation and you're gaining familiarity. What I often tell clients is that we're going to fund the policy, we're going to learn the system, and then maybe we'll take a few loans along the way to kind of understand the mechanics. And so what I tell clients is that the first year, probably 2, is there's quite a bit of hand-holding. There should be a lot of interaction with your coach. And what I always tell clients is feel free to use the Calendly link to jump on the calendar and call. My expectation is that early on, we're going to have a lot of questions. And so a good coach is always prepared for that. The other thing that I would say is that early on, in regards to gaining familiarity, Anthony, I'd love to hear your input. But for me, the first year when somebody comes in, we execute the policy, we fund it, everything goes great. They might use it, right? But some clients don't. We get to that first anniversary or year 2 premium. And to be honest, they forgot quite a bit. And so then we dive back into the education process. We do a little bit of a review. And I would say most times, more often than not, is it kind of gets that memory jogging. And so it's that second year or that third year that you really start to see somebody kind of catch on and then get going if they haven't already. So that's a good metric for me. That's the way that I usually kind of teach or just preface it with clients. The first couple of years, it's going to be a great opportunity to identify, or a great time to identify opportunities to put your money to work kind of on a smaller scale. With that said, is not to say that you couldn't start with something bigger, but oftentimes people are dipping their toes in the water and we say, hey, let's just get something started and get going. And so I hope that helps kind of years 1 through 3.
Now, yeah, years 1 through 3, that's the hard part. Is what my experience is. But once we get into year 4, I'm talking about year 4 through 6. This is a couple things are happening here. For one, typically the policy is cash flowing. It's a term we like to use, meaning you fund it with $1 and it grows by more than $1. So $1 in and $1 out. And this is where I feel like things where things start to click, right? Yeah. You've hopefully used a policy before, have kind of seen the ease of accessing the capital, the ease of the requirements of the repayment. So here's where oftentimes people start to expand their banking system. Like I know for me, my first policy was small. Just like you said, I had to check it out. I had to put my toe in the water to see if this really works. And as I felt more comfortable with it, I felt more comfortable expanding my banking system. Also, I think during this time, I say a lot of times we end up taking our financial blinders off, meaning a lot of times people come to us and they only think that the only way to save for retirement is the stock market. But as we start talking about implementing different ideas, discussing, or maybe like we have this passive income lab, which is like a 12-week coaching program to create passive income, you start learning, wow, there's a lot of things that I can do with my policy. So here's where people start using their policy for down payments of a rental property, hard money lending. This is a time where we can start new businesses or even expand the ones that we currently have.
Well said. Typically, that's when we start to make that transition into years 7 through 10. And this is, like Anthony said, you mentioned they take the blinders off. In years 7 through 10, the focus is really on expansion, right? And legacy. And one of the things that you'll notice at this point, oftentimes with clients, is that we've cycled capital kind of through our policies several times. We know how this works. And you've also hit the ground running. What Anthony highlighted in 4 through 6 is we're finding or looking for opportunities to put our capital to work. Usually by 7 to 10, we've already done that. We've had some success, and we're pretty focused on kind of what we're doing. And we've got some groundwork, we got some traction, and we've had some success underneath us. And so usually in that 7 to 10 mark, right, we have an idea of what we're going to be doing, and we've created multiple passive income streams along the way. The other thing that you'll see as far as kind of the legacy part of it is that oftentimes people are starting to look at, hey, well, how do I pass this thing down? And a lot of times that's when estate planning will come in. If we haven't done it by this point, this does become a big topic for clients right here. Also, the other thing that you'll see here at this point is that oftentimes, again, along the lines of expansion, is that clients are looking for opportunities to expand their system. They've owned policies personally on themselves up to this point. Maybe they considered one for their wife, but really by now they're looking to expand the system either down to their kids, or something that I'm a big fan of is actually look to the generation above you. If we can, on mom and dad, or even the in-laws, is a great opportunity to expand our banking system and plan to start that windfall with the generation above us. So years 7 through 10, it's all about expansion and legacy.
Now, so we just kind of talked about going from year 1 through year 10, but by doing that, it really has a compound effect, because here we have that uninterrupted compound growth inside the policy, and we're able to do some and deploy that money outside to build more assets, which will equal exponential growth, right? And while your capital grows in the policy tax-free, it starts working in the real world. And what you're going to find, the longer you're playing this game, the bigger the separation between those who dabble in IBC and those who are committed to IBC. And this is where we shift from, hey, I have a policy, to I have become my own banker. And here's the important thing, is why we're talking about it now, is with infinite banking, it is a long-term approach. And I know we're talking about 10 years. 10 years forward seems a long time. But you look back 10 years and it seems to have gone just like that, right? So what the great thing of having this 10-year and kind of longer approach using infinite banking, well, we no longer have to predict the market, right? What we need to do is to control our banking. Now, imagine if we had started this policy 10 years ago, the amount of capital that you would have now. The old saying goes, when is the best time to build a tree? Well, really 40 years ago. But when's the second best time? Is now. And so we need to start planting these seeds now. So 10 years from now, you're not saying the same thing.
Imagine if you could grow your wealth, access your money anytime tax-free, and never break the compound interest curve while you use your own money. Well, that's exactly what the infinite banking concept does.
And we help investors just like you implement this strategy, and we'd love to show you how. Schedule a free call with us and start taking control of your financial future today.
The link to schedule that will be in the show notes.
And again, I know 10 years may seem like a long time, but it's going to fly by quickly. But also there are ways where we can shorten that time frame, and which we call a kickstart, is really just deploying some extra cash, maybe in that first year or the first couple of years, where that gives us that jump start, or we like to call kickstart. That this can shorten that time period, like almost having a time machine to allow you to shorten that slow start and to slow the time frame here on infinite banking.
Love it. Hey guys, today what we're doing is we were pulling back the curtain on this IBC blueprint. We hope you guys found some value and have a great idea on what infinite banking could look like for you guys over the next 10 years. If you guys are interested or have questions on how this may apply to you, feel free to reach out to us and jump on a discovery call with Anthony and or myself. Look forward to talking to you guys. Take care.
Go make it a fantastic day. If you like this video, I know you're like this one. And if you want to learn how investors use infinite banking to increase their returns and lower their taxes, check this out. And if you have some questions and want to see if infinite banking is for you, hop on a discovery call with us. Link for that will be in the description.